LPT, marry someone who will always have your back. Don't go for the most beautiful/handsome, or the most successful person. Marry someone who will always have your back and protect you from the world, even when they're mad at you. A stranger gave that advice to my husband whilst we were engaged. He shared it with me later. We both felt that it validated our decision, as we both will always have each other's back even if we're in the middle of an argument. Felt nice in the moment. Didn't think about it again for a couple of years. But now I'm witnessing the dissolution of two marriages of two separate friends. The advice keeps popping into my head. Whenever they're telling me what they're going through, and what went wrong for them, I listen with love and without judgment, but internally I reply, "But you didn't have his/her back." For one couple, the newlywed husband and wife kept talking to their own parents about everything that was wrong with the marriage. The in-laws on both sides began hating their child's spouse, and would start having toxic discussions about what the spouse needs to do to improve, and how they're falling short. They would openly insult the spouse and my girlfriend would just let them. The newlyweds began visiting their parents separately, which became entire weekend-long echo chambers of negativity. They filed for divorce after 1 year, after being best friends for 4 years. In another couple, my girlfriend will always have her husband's back, but she chose someone who never has her back. She kind of loves him more than he loves her. The crazy thing is that he basically told her that it would always be that way, but she still chose to marry him. Now they have a special needs child and he disappears for days at a time. I can think of another couple of examples. But I'll stop there. Does this advice resonate with anyone? Or am I just overthinking? Always having your back doesn't mean always agreeing with you either. You can disagree and that be a form of having your back. People forget this aspect of marriage. Something I've learned the hard way: never only complain about your significant other to other people. Not your friends, not your parents, not your siblings. You will forgive your significant other and move past the irritations. If you don't tell your friends, parents, siblings all of the good things about your significant other, that's all they'll hear. People who love you will never forgive your significant other for the mistakes in the ways they have treated you. 38 years married. Don't talk bad about your spouse to your mom or dad. They will never forgive them like you will. Also, marry someone that will tell you when you are wrong. It's all well and good to have someone's back, but if I'm being I want my partner to tell me. I hate it when a friend or partner will back you up when you're wrong. To the degree they can conflict, honesty and integrity is more important to me than blind loyalty. I don't think marriage is that simple. I've been married for 20 years and I have no secret recipe for you. It's probably a million small things, but we have certainly had our fair share of times when we've come close to the brink, and, so far, back from it. I do often say when other people want to pipe in on someone's marriage, or divorce, that I've been married long enough to know better than to judge someone else's marriage. The only two people who know what's truly going on are the ones in it. There is nothing more admirable than when two people who see eye to eye keep house as man and wife, confounding their enemies and delighting their friends. Homer, it's good advice. It's not new advice, but it's really good advice. Though I agree and had someone that I felt was able to have my back, married her and then divorced. You also need to be open and honest about your feelings too if things are hard or a struggle, and have a willingness to work together. Oh, and not other guys too. That makes a difference. Edit, to clarify, my ex did this. Even had a list of the people she. How neat is that? Couple other people basically said this, but this has a shelf life. If both people do not communicate well and make an effort, it may still not work out. This eventuality can come as a surprise to both people. Agreed 100%. We've had our ups and downs over the past 34 years, but have always tried our best to have a united front when it comes to how the two of us handle issues outside of our marriage. I decided to retire early 2 years ago. My husband had my back completely. He retired at a planned early age last summer, and when his final day arrived, told me that it was only because of my support he was able to make it through his career successfully. Unlike some other couples who either put ego first or were not supportive of their partners when issues came up, we never took aim at tearing down each other, and it helped keep us together through the storms life can throw at you. That falls under categories 2 and 4 in my list. Here's my list of things to look for in a relationship. 1. They're amenable to accountability. 2. They're ardent about their participation in the relationship. 3. They are authentic. 4. They don't abuse your vulnerabilities. Today's LPT sponsored by Dom Toretto. Greater than. Does this advice resonate with anyone? Or am I just overthinking? Yay! I always called it loyal, but it's important. Everybody has bad days. Be with someone that'll cover your bad days. And cover for them on their bad days. Because everybody has bad days. The most interesting thing I've ever watched my wife go through, on my behalf, was a deposition in which they questioned her about her therapy records, in front of me. Literally quoting things her therapist had wrote down. Frequently about me. And her answers stunned me. She pretty much threw her therapist under the bus and explained what actually got said. Very matter of fact. She stopped seeing that therapist after that deposition and seeing what she had wrote. Silent Bob's only line in Clerks, "You know, there's a million fine-looking women in the world, dude. But they don't all bring you lasagna at work. Most of them just cheat on you." Not too long ago, my partner of 4 years, at one point, told me they felt they didn't care for me that much any longer, and that's why they hadn't been putting effort into the relationship. We came to the brink of a breakup. I was devastated. I vented to my mom and best friend, as well as voicing my thoughts and trying to figure out the best path forward. They were incredible during that period of time. They didn't urge me to break up or stay together with my partner. They actually wouldn't allow me to ask their opinion of that. Rather, they gave suggestions for how I could figure it out on my own, offered to take care of me in little ways, what I could watch out for in my partner if I do decide to stay with them. My partner and I ended up sticking together. We figured out they likely were suffering a depressive episode, and they agreed to sign up with a therapist immediately. They took all of my concerns seriously and have put some serious effort into themselves and into the relationship ever since. It's honestly beautiful to see the change in the way they treat themselves and me. I'm still a bit on guard, but with time and real action I've been lowering my guard. I'm very grateful for being able to sound my relationship with my mom and best friend. They were incredibly supportive and guided me in extremely helpful, healthy ways. I suppose I feel guilty that I air dirty laundry about my partner. But I informed my partner that I did speak to my mom/friend about our situation. They understood. It was a difficult time. I'm glad we made it through that. I still have my partner's back, and I always will. In that moment though, I had to prioritize my own back without doing damage to my partner's as best I could. And it worked out. I think you meant to have someone that will always shave your back. This is pretty worthless. It's like saying always get the perfect thing. Oh, okay. Thanks for solving life for everyone. Yeah, my wife and I often argue, but I know 100% that I can trust her and she has my back and she knows the same about me. Second marriage for both of us. Coming up on 15 years. Along those lines, my husband and I think it's important to always be on the same team. Even if we don't agree, we argue in private, but present a united front to others. And if we argue about something that starts to pit us against each other, we gently remind ourselves that we're on the same team. Even when we argue, he's never the enemy. And that's how marriage should be, I believe. I love this comment and would like to add that sometimes your partner has your back by pushing you to do things that are hard but also very important. For example, I have depression and anxiety, and while I am doing very well now, that's not always the case. My husband and I both know that sometimes it gets a little on top of me. I can't seem to work my way out, but I also sometimes feel like I'm weak if I need to see my therapist, which he found for me after researching the best treatments for my trauma, and she's incredible, temporarily to help me work through the issue. I know that isn't true, but sometimes I forget. My husband is great at reminding me of how far I've come and how, as he says, no one could go through that and be weak, and telling me how proud he is. He has offered to make my appointment for me or be with me during my appointment. I've had him with me during some sessions when dealing with trauma in case I dissociate and start to panic, which I've done. He makes notes on his phone of things I mention wanting to talk to my therapist about cause my memory sucks. He prints them out like talking points for me. He does everything he can to make the whole thing as easy for me as possible, and coming from a family that tormented me about my trauma and causing more, his support means the world to me. I can't imagine how hard it must be for him to have that conversation with me, but he also loves me too much to let me beat myself down. I love him for that. I really hope I explained that right and did him justice. Always back you in public. Honest discussions in private. Been there. My ex used to about me to everyone she could without realizing she was burning bridges and hindering any forward progress. Then she wondered why her dad didn't like me even though I'd only met him once at a completely civil lunch. I've never talked to anyone about arguments I've had with my husband, other than, we're having an argument. But never any details about what. Not even my best friends or family. I feel like the only reason I would ever do that is if I've already made up my mind and filed for divorce. It's such a betrayal of trust. Even when it's a really big argument, I truly can't bring myself to vent about it to anyone because then I feel like the relationship would be over. Is this just me? I kinda assumed this was everyone. I've never really heard friends bad talking their spouses either, even when they're not getting along. It's just an unwritten rule to me that those things must stay between the couple. Well, they're not sleeping with your spouse either. Hopefully. I think that it's important to tell the people that you go to for the bad stuff in the relationship, to talk about the good things too. It's important that whoever you're opening up to knows about both sides so that they can properly understand if they're giving advice. That's why for me it's my best friend. She knows about a lot about the good and bad, and she knows it's not always bad when I'm upset. Probably the most sensible comment here. I find it extremely frustrating when couples do that thing where they act like they figured out the key to a healthy marriage almost exclusively based on the assumption that because they are still together as of this point, their relationship is healthy and going to last forever. I have come to sincerely doubt that even the two people in the marriage actually know what's going on in it. Even if they put their heads and separate understandings together, I doubt they could figure it out. But I do believe they are the only people who can have valid input. Except abusive situations, sometimes people clearly need help to recognize and get out of abuse. But even abuse can be truly hard to see, sometimes. Must be from a later season's episode, I guess. Greater than did, to clarify, my ex did this. Even had a list of the people she. How neat is that? Sure, most executables programs keep logs of the stuff they do while running. You 5 other guys? When two people know each other well enough to always have each other's backs, well, that's what I call love. This is what is technically called a ride or die bitch. Or. Your choice. My late wife and I, 25 years together, didn't fight much. We would frustrate each other but didn't argue a lot. But when we did, she would always bring it back to we have a problem, let's work on a solution together. It would at least slow roll the fight. She was a smart one. You hit it on the head. The best relationship advice I've gotten is, 1. Don't treat a disagreement as you versus them, but you and your partner versus the problem. Work together to solve it instead of worrying over who is right. 2. Never mention things during a fight that isn't relevant / would purposely hurt your partner. Sure, it's easy to use a low-blow insult when you're angry, but is that really the best way to solve your problem, or will it just make it worse? 3. Before getting angry, ask yourself, is this problem worth causing a fight and possibly negatively affecting my relationship long-term? How can I approach this without causing an argument? It helps you work together to solve the problem, and usually avoids any unnecessary escalation. Obviously both of you need to be on board with this method, and it's not appropriate for all fights, but is great for most day-to-day issues. Since following this advice, my husband and I almost never fight, and disagreements usually get solved quickly and with very little anger or stress. It's a game changer, really. Right you are. My wife told our kids we are divorcing before she told me. With that announcement, I am the enemy. Sounds like you have a lovely husband, which means you must be a nice person as well. Unless backing your so in public leads to hurting someone else. Emotional maturity thing as well. Simply if she's doing that, then she wasn't ready for a committed relationship. I only talk specifics with my therapist, because she actually helps. My ex did this. Aired all our business to anyone that would listen. I'm a private person and it killed me. 8 years of marriage down the drain when I found 2 years of audio recordings of any argument, and screenshots of all my texts taken from my watch while it was on the charger. I don't understand the thought process to share all your most private information with everyone. People need outlets to vent frustration in a healthy way. Also, if a person is abused, it leaves no one to know the history in case of injury or being suddenly missing. Greater than I have come to sincerely doubt that even the two people in the marriage actually know what's going on in it. Even if they put their heads and separate understandings together, I doubt they could figure it out. What do these statements even mean? As someone who has been happily married nearly 20 years, I'm confident that neither I nor my wife would ever say we didn't know what's going on in our marriage. It's not a complex standoff between two superpowers with 3 centuries of backstory. It's a friendship with shared experiences and goals. But their Cajun fries are so sexy. Except everyone I know that used the phrase ride or die when it was popular is now divorced or broken up. Smiley face. I'm sorry for your loss, my friend. She sounds like she was a great partner. The way you talk about her obviously has a lot of love behind it. With my ex, I asked her to not tell the kids before the end of the school year. She told them at dinner. In retrospect, it didn't matter 1 ounce. She did so many horrible things after that telling the kids did no damage in comparison. I was the enemy for a few years, but I completely withdrew and told my kids I'm there if they want me to be around. Took years, but I now have a great relationship with the younger daughter. The older one, taking after her mother, mental issues, and doesn't want help. In any event, be yourself. Never talk bad about their mother. Have a few moments as we all need, but don't keep bringing her up, and be consistent. You will not be the enemy forever. Kids become adults and think a lot about their relationship with you,